the Gayest Generation, where we hear LGBTQ older adults speak for themselves. Every episode, we sit down with a different member of the LGBTQ community who laid the foundation for the freedoms we have today. Their stories, more than ever, must be heard. In this episode, we speak with Lisa Marshall Bashert. We discuss lesbian motherhood, the experience of attending a Blue Jay funeral, and the spirituality of gardening. Now, you will hear many references to a certain Beth, and that be Beth Bashert, Lisa's wife, who you can hear from in our last episode. Be sure to check it out. This episode contains adult language. You're listening to The Gayest Generation.
Lisa Marshall Bashert, and I'm 68 now, and I identify as a lesbian.
It's really wonderful to be here.
Go on.
It's really wonderful to be with you here today. Yay. After meeting you on the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you grew up on a farm.
Well, I grew up actually in a small town in South Jersey, but my sister married a farmer, and I worked on her farm from age 10 to age 20.
And what kind of farm was it?
In South Jersey, it's called a truck farm.
Uh-huh.
And that is all vegetables, no animals. And there was a vegetable stand on the farm itself. I worked in that vegetable stand a lot. That was the main stuff, but I also was in charge of the flower field for a few years and did some stuff in the greenhouse. Also did some picking with the ladies, the older ladies who worked at the farm.
Did you enjoy it as a kid?
You know, I mean, I'm still to this day doing urban agriculture, and I've lived for my entire life doing agriculture. So when I left the farm at age 20, I thought to myself, I'm never going to plant another thing. That was so much work. But you know how they say you can take the girl off the farm, but you can't take the farm off the girl. And so, so I thought, you know, when my daughter was a tiny baby and I was a single mom, I thought, I'll just plant just a few tomatoes.
Yeah.
You know, and then I spent my whole life building community gardens, running community gardens. I'm just retiring this year from running for 20 plus years, one of the nearby community gardens in Ypsi.
Would that be Growing Hope?
Yeah, Growing Hope. And so from the very beginning of Growing Hope, I've been involved. When they started in 93, the first couple of gardens, I found out about it. I had been community gardening with, you know, in Ann Arbor. I had a plot at County Farm Park that I would meet my friend at. We were like, that was the central location. So she was coming from the west part of Ann Arbor and I was coming from the west part of Ypsi.
What happens on an urban farm?
Well, community gardens have a lot of different models. In Ypsi, there's a lot of different kinds of community gardens. Like some are at apartment gardens. The Growing Hope property has a community farm where most of their excess at first was sold to local businesses, but later they have a number of places where they just distribute free food on site and elsewhere in the town. And then there's rental gardens like my community garden where you rent a plot and you grow your own stuff. And then there's also like free-for-all kinds of gardens where volunteers grow stuff and anybody in the area is allowed to just come in and pick.
I see.
And that makes it a little confusing for people who want food because, you know, that model of just come in and pick is not what we rental gardeners would like.
I see.
Yeah.
What's something that you've learned from your experiences with, dare I say, with plants and gardening, whether that be working on your sister's farm or being a community gardener?
Well, you know, it is the basis for my whole spirituality is definitely rooted in growing and being rooted in a place, in a watershed, in an environment of relationship with the land, with the plants, with the growing, with knowing all the, you know, I like to know all the animals animals,
Yes.
all the plants by name, even extending so far as I studied Ojibwa language for 3 years at school.
Mhm.
And then, I've remained in community with Native people in the state who are providing a lot of leadership in environmental causes and stuff.
The link between gardening and spirituality, tell me more about that.
It's like, time in nature is my single most sacred experience. And whether that be, kneeling in the dirt
Yeah.
at my plot or walking out in nature. And I feel like I have a connection to spirit through interacting
Yes.
with the trees and the plants and the animals, and even extending so far as to feeling like I have sacred teachers
Sure.
through certain, like, for example, blue jays are very important to me spiritually and ever since childhood. So, and I feel like I have had a number of really spiritual, sacred, mystical experiences with blue jays and so forth. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What do they represent to you, or how did that connection come to be?
Well, it is a gay thing,
Yeah.
unsurprisingly, right? I've always had a very loud, very authoritative kind of way of speaking. And I'm sure this is directly related to my mom, who is a very dominating person in my life, very loud. And blue jays are like the bossy bird. They come up to the bird feeder, they knock the other birds aside, they have a lot to say, they're very loud, and they're astonishingly beautiful, but also you see them all the time regularly, you hear them all the time. So they're not special, I mean, in the sense of they're not unique and rare.
Yeah.
They're ubiquitous and loud, and I love that idea that the miraculous can be ever present, and that's one of many lessons I've learned from the blue jay, and to cherish my loud, bossy voice and lots of other things. I'm not dressed in blue today, which is very rare. I actually, almost my entire wardrobe is blue in honor of blue jays, and also because it makes me feel closer to them. Yeah. I actually attended a blue jay funeral once, which was truly an amazing incident. You want to hear about it?
Yes.
So what happened was I had been hearing outside the house, a lot of screaming. I mean, much, much more than usual. They do live around my house, but this was noticeable. And so I went outside and I found that there was a baby blue jay that was dead in my yard. And also another fledgling, another small blue jay that was near that one. And so I put that blue jay under my apple tree and just sat down. And all of the family around were mourning and crying and all of this. And the other sibling went and sat in the apple tree right above where its nest mate had been set. And I thought I would bury that bird like later. But I just sat there, and I probably sat there for like 3 hours just watching what was happening. And eventually the mom came down and fed the remaining baby, and the remaining baby just sat there above her sibling for many hours.
Yes.
And eventually, I went back inside, but then later I've had blue jays come up to the kitchen window, or I'll be sitting in the backyard and they land right on the grape arbor quite nearby, like 2 yards away. And I feel like they appreciated my attendance and they appreciated my attention. The other thing about interacting with animals is that humans are or at least I am, I'm so distractible. So distractible. It's very, very hard to sit and watch for 3 hours.
Sure.
I'm just instantly looking over here, and so that's a lesson, I think, in attention and how we pay attention to what's really happening in the world. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
You have me thinking about my connections with nature and kind of thinking about my life in a kind of retrospective way, which brings me to, I understand that you have been a diarist your whole life.
Yes, since around age 11.
What started it? What does it mean to be a diarist? Tell me about that part of your identity.
I read The Diary of Anne Frank, and then I became interested in diary writing.
Mhm.
And I think there's definitely a sense of purpose in my life that has to do with being remembered and being able to sort of name my own truth and
Yes.
stuff like that. So from early times, like the first diary that I wrote consistently, I wrote for about 6 or 8 months every day. And one of the things I was writing about was my crush on this boy who I traveled to school with, you know.
Mhm.
His mom did what do you call it?
A carpool?
Carpool, thank you. I just couldn't think of the word. Yeah. And of course, this was totally me trying so hard to fit into the heterosexual
I see.
role. And then sometime in June or July, I wrote an entry about my terror that I might be queer. I don't have any memory of this.
Sure.
I just know that I wrote it, that I was horrified and scared and angry and all that stuff. I wrote that. And then I maybe did, I don't know, maybe another 3 or 4 weeks, and then I abandoned it. I just I couldn't tolerate knowing that that fear was there and that I had written about it. And I didn't discover it again until my late 20s.
Yep.
Yeah.
At that time, how did you know what queer was? Did you?
I have no idea. I do have this one memory, okay? In first and second grade at a Catholic school, when you went from one spot to another, you went in a double line and you held hands with your partner, who was another girl. And so this is how we just went from the school to the church or from one classroom to another. We always did it this way, right? And I think I was in second grade and we were going to go somewhere. And I reached for the hand of my partner and somebody behind me said, "You're a lessie." And I'm like, uh-oh. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
But it didn't sound good. So that's my first memory of thinking, uh-oh, there's something weird about me.
Mm-hmm.
But did I know? I mean, obviously, there were no societal depictions of queerness. And I think it's interesting that you were saying earlier that in The Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
you felt the queerness that was a part of that story. And I had read The Wizard of Oz. And yeah, Halloween was my high holy day, from childhood, just expressing myself in a way that was contrary to societal options was very important. And that was what my sense of queerness was.
Halloween is so important to queer people because
so important.
I kind of see it as the day where you can really be whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's almost the weirder, the more specific, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. My autistic grandson, oh my God, the weird costumes he's coming up with are hilarious.
Give us one. What's it?
Oh, I can't even say because they're so specific and I can't even Friday at Freddy's. There's
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So he's had a character from that and just all kinds of things. But it's also my daughter and our whole family is pretty neurodiverse. Mm-hmm. And she has pointed out to me, "You're autistic, Mom." And I was like, oh. And then I read a book about it by Devin Price. It's called Unmasking Autism. Mm-hmm. I started making a list, as you do, of all the ways that the sort of characteristics he was describing. I got up to 30 or 40 characteristics. And I was like, okay, I guess, yeah.
If I got 30 or 40 of these written down, then I guess I am.
I guess I am. Yeah. And so there's lots of funny little things like, special interests. I have a lot of those.
Mm-hmm. History,
right?
What are some others?
Let's see. What are some others?
Well, I can tell you because I Googled you. Beekeeping. Gardening. Music.
Choir, right? Huge in my life. And turning things into a job. That's, I think, an autistic characteristic. Like if you have a love, You can't just have that special interest or that love. You have to sort of massage it into a job so that it's legitimate in some way. And yeah, so that's how I end up leading the choir and running the community garden, so that I can indulge in my passions legitimately in some way.
So,
Like hyper emotional, for example. I've all my entire life I've been criticized both within my family and just in general. You're too happy, you're too sad. Why are you getting so upset? I mean, I think that's also extremely analytical, like special interests like Star Trek and Civil War, Pompeii,
Yeah.
the Amish,
Yeah.
the Ojibwe. I did study anthropology in school. And I had my little cultures that just really attracted, like the Amish. I've read probably, I don't know, dozens of books on the Amish. And the Ojibwe, I both have relationships with people who are Anishinaabe people and also read many books. Yeah.
No, I bet you're not reading those Amish romances we can't keep on the shelf here at the library.
I don't.
You're reading the historical.
I'm not reading those. Yeah. I'm reading more nonfiction about the Amish. Like, did you know, for example, the place where we love to camp is up on the north bank of the Asable. And so you go up 23 and then you go up 65 to the North Bank. And previously there were no Amish on that trip. And now there's been a huge influx into Michigan of Amish people. And that's very interesting to me about, yeah.
I'm going to try to not make this whole interview about Amish people. So I'm like, I have so many other questions. I'm like. Now, to backtrack just a little bit here, you had mentioned that when you began your journey as a diarist, you were around 15 or 16 when you first wrote down, I might be a little bit.
12, yeah.
12.
Yeah.
You were like, I might be a little bit gay, but moving on. And that's not something exactly that you had revisited until, if I remember correctly, you were 27.
Yeah.
What were those in-between years like dealing with your queerness? Or I don't know if dealing with is the right verb, but...
Well, it is interesting, as I said to you before, was that I met my first gay man in college, and I had this instant affinity, first of all, but also instantly felt like, oh, okay, obviously the Christian condemnation of queers is wrong. I instantly felt in harmony with queerness, though I didn't think of it as being about me. And then my very best friend in college was a gay man, Kevin Walsh, who later very sadly died of AIDS in San Francisco, because this was, the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
And so AIDS was just coming on the scene.
On the horizon.
Yeah, he left here to go and live in the gay capital.
Yeah.
And we kept in touch. And then as we were talking on the phone, I could discern that his mental capacity was suffering.
Dwindling.
And then, I didn't know his family. And so all of a sudden he wasn't available anymore. And I didn't know what was going on. And I was also sort of in the midst of coming out. I told him that I was coming out before his death. So I was in the middle of my own very exciting journey. And it took me a couple of years to kind of realize that I hadn't heard from Kevin in a long time. And I did a Social Security kind of death roster search and found him, which broke my heart. Yeah.
Where were you during that time?
I was here.
In Michigan?
I left South Jersey. This is another way that I knew but didn't admit to myself. I had to get 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. You had to go somewhere over the rainbow.
Yeah, over the rainbow. And Ann Arbor and the Midwest in general was so very different from South Jersey.
How so?
Very much more friendly. And I love the Midwest practice of smiling at people you're passing or saying hello. And that was really different from South Jersey. You didn't do that on the boardwalk, Not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smiling at strangers? That. What are you doing?
Yeah. One time I was sitting in the Philadelphia airport and a little toddler came up to me and I was like smiling morning in my Midwest way.
Ookie, coo, coo,
How
coo,
you doing,
coo.
honey? And the mother came up and snatched that baby. Like, you fucking weirdo. So, yes, one of the reasons why my diaries were collected by the Bentley is because I was writing all through my coming out process.
Wow.
So it's there, documented somewhere.
Okay. So because you have a record of living it,
Yeah.
do you go back and read the diaries and re-experience
Yeah,
things?
I do. Yeah.
What is that like?
It is a strange thing that I write many things that I then immediately forget.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
like, in some ways, it's very shocking, things that we did or places we went. Beth just said to me the other day, we saw Baryshnikov dance. And I'm like, no, we didn't.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Where?
But apparently we did in Detroit. I trust her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, some things I just completely do not remember. So having the written record is very interesting. And yeah, I don't know. Do I re-experience it? Kind of. But for example, during very, very stressful times, then I tend to stop writing, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I have two forms of journal. I have a daily, like 5-line kind of thing. And then I have, which I made up in a diary class in 1985. So I made up that daily thing. And so I do that many days, or I catch up if I'm a couple of days late for writing that one. But then I also do a long form on the laptop. And I've been doing that, writing that long form. The last few years, it's been kind of like I summarize the month.
I see.
Yeah, but sometimes when things are very, very hard, like during the non-discrimination fight in Ypsilanti, the non-discrimination ordinance fight, which Beth led, like sometimes I just can't write because it's too intense.
Yep.
It's too upsetting and too scary. And I'm trying to remember, like there was one incident, and did I write about this? I don't know. Like when we announced our quote unquote engagement in the Ann Arbor News.
Yes.
Right? Like I was gardening outside and my neighbor walked over, a historian from EMU named Les. I can't remember his last name, but he walked over and I was like, oh my God, he's coming over here.
Yeah.
What is going to happen? And I got really, really, really scared. And he came over and he said, oh, I just wanted to say, congratulations.
Oh my God.
This was in 1988.
Yeah.
And within recent memory, 2 lesbians had been shot dead by their neighbor, just for being gay in his presence in northern Michigan a little ways.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I really had that fear of, like when we announced this in the newspaper, I was like, okay, rednecks are putting, their shotguns onto the racks of their pickups and they're going to come by. Who knows, But so I'm not sure if I wrote about that incident of him saying congratulations. And I think I wrote a little bit about the fact that there was much more support than we expected. Like Beth was working for Zingerman's, I think, at that time. And, people were coming up and saying, congratulations. We were like, how do we deal with that?
Yeah.
So unexpected.
Something I'm so interested in is the relationship between experiencing that fear and feeling that anxiety, while also you and Beth lived such a public is the right word.
Yes.
And such an outwardly brave life. So, like, do you hold those two things together at the same time?
I think I told you about going to see the teachers,
Yes, okay.
As a communal lesbian family, for example.
Can we start that story from point A?
It's hard for me to remember it. My recollection is this was first grade. What is the school on the west side of Ann Arbor? It's Eberwhite. Okay,
yes,
she went to Eberwhite School for
this is
first,
your daughter.
Second. Yeah, our daughter, Sean Miller.
Yep.
And now Sean Chivers at that time. I raised her as a single mom for 6 years with the help of other lesbians and this communal family. And then Beth moved into the communal family. So we went to see the teacher, the first grade teacher, and she was like, no, 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 you can't all call yourselves mom. This child will not know who her mother is, and that's wrong, and that's very bad for your child's mental health. And we were like, nope, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have to deal with it. And that also happened with like the Girl Scout leader in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor can be very like, we know what's best for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so when we then moved in her third grade, she was a third grader when we moved to Ipsy, it was so refreshing to talk to the teachers as a lesbian couple. Then we had sort of dissolved the communal family.
Aspect.
By then. It was just me and Beth and her. So it was still two moms. You know, going to see the teachers there, they were just like, there's two? Yay, two parents. Yes, we support that. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, and same thing with the Girl Scout leader. She was like, she loved us to death. And we are kind of a colorful couple too, you know. So, yeah, felt a great deal more support in Ipsy for our alternative family.
And can you tell me more about, just so we get the timeline correctly,
Yeah.
you were, married?
I was married for 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because my parents were. So, how I got pregnant was I went to Europe solo on. Can you believe? I mean, now when I look back, I just can't believe that I did that. You know, like
I believe it.
Yeah, I said Kevin Walsh took me to the airport.
Okay.
And I flew to Frankfurt, and I was going to go around Europe solo. And in Munich, I met this cute guy. He's Welsh. He had a cute accent. He was juggling in the park for the children. And I just thought that was the cutest thing and funny. And we started traveling together. And then I ended up getting pregnant in Venice, probably. And I had a whole month on my Eurail pass. We ended up in Wales. We went to visit his mom. And I told him before I left, you know, I think I'm pregnant, even though I hadn't even missed a period yet.
Sure.
But I just felt different in my body, and I had to pee constantly, even though we were 1 month pregnant. And I just felt differently in my body, and I thought I was pregnant. So then I got home to Michigan, and I had to figure out, you know, am I going to tell him? And I just felt like for Sean, you know, it's her dad.
Yes.
And I couldn't, you know, overrule her having a relationship with her actual dad. So I did tell him, and he came here, and we did get married when I was 7 months pregnant at the Ann Arbor courthouse. It was ridiculous. And it was so, I hand sewed my wedding dress in red and green plaid, much like what you're wearing today. And that's what I got married in. So ridiculous and funny. And then, we lasted 13 months before I took the baby and escaped. You know, it was just not working for me. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand him. Of course, we're still in relationship now because, you know, once you have a child with somebody, you're stuck with him forever. And so it's just something to know. If I hadn't written that letter, but, you know, Sean needs to have her dad. So there it is.
So it was you and Sean, and
Yeah.
you come to find out about this organization called Collage.
Yeah, that was much later. I mean,
fill me
moved
in.
I moved in with some lesbians. So what actually happened was Bryn, my ex-husband, was quite friendly with this couple of lesbians who lived in Pittsfield Village in those cool little condos there.
Ooh, I would want to
And
live there.
he moved in next door to them and became very friendly with them. And so I got to know them just through parenting, and they started doing some, you know, babysitting for him. And I met them, and this was Patty and Celeste, and they were the nucleus of the communal family. They were together. They eventually had a child. I had a child, and we all moved in together and parented together. And that happened because I was living on the west side of Ann Arbor after leaving Bryn. And what happened was she was catastrophically burned.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she accidentally knocked a teacup over on her shoulder and head. And so we went to Mott, and she had to have a graft from her leg on her shoulder
Okay.
and so forth. And she was in Mott for about almost a month, And so I was kind of like living at the hospital, and I was waiting tables, and it was very difficult to get time off. And I was working at the Old German, and it was a nightmare because when I would leave the hospital, there was nobody with her. And so they would like tie her into the bed so that she couldn't run around and get hurt. But that was so mentally terrible for me to know that every minute I wasn't there, she was confined. So at a certain point in the 3 weeks, I walked out of my Old German job and walked into the Del Rio next door, and I'm sitting there crying. And the Del Rio was this hippie bar that was collectively run. And so one of the women came over and brought me a glass of wine and said, "What is going on, honey? Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "My daughter's in the hospital." And they said, "Look, we're having a hiring meeting this weekend. And if you come to that hiring meeting, I can almost guarantee you will have another job."
Yeah.
And so that was just a lifesaver at that time to start working at the Dell. And I worked there for about 5 years altogether, I think. 5 or 6 years, yeah. But after Sean was burned and finally got out of the hospital, well, we ended up moving in with Patty and Celeste, who had just bought a house in Ypsi. And so that's where our hippie family started. And after that, we came upon Collage. But the Collage group here in the Ann Arbor area was called the Lesbian Moms Network.
Okay.
So the LMN. And there was like a paper directory of all the lesbian moms, and we met for social things so the kids could interact with other kids. But Sean was much the most oldest kid, and she was born from a heterosexual relationship versus many of the kids were baster babies or known donors or unknown donors, mostly unknown donors. So they were all, toddlers and 5 and under, and Sean was 13 when we were interacting mostly, maybe a little younger. So we did go, and Patty and Celeste's child was an unknown donor.
Okay.
Baby, and she was born in 85, so she was a few years younger than Sean. So we took her to the Lesbian Moms Network, too, so she could hang out with other kids of queers.
So the Lesbian Mom Network existed as a way for queer women with children to meet each other, but also to allow y'all's children to be together.
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Lesbians who didn't have children were a very different tribe from the lesbians that did have children.
What's the difference? What's the big...
Well, I mean, a lot of, like we used to make jokes about, the androgynous lesbians, who were all sporty and they played, softball and they played volleyball and they, they were not interested in parenting. And, you would start talking about your children and their eyes would just glaze over. And they'd be like, "Can we get back to softball?"
Yeah.
So we did play softball. Beth played softball for many, many years, and I scored. And I loved that.
Yes.
In both senses.
Yeah, I was going to say. I didn't know if you were making a joke or... I mean, you certainly did.
And we became baseball fans, through softball. So, I mean, we had relationships with sporty androgynous dykes, but I would say the vast majority of our friendship group as a communal family was with other lesbian moms until our communal lesbian family broke up, and then we were like pariahs. That was my first experience of being a pariah. We've had 3 experiences of being pariahs. So.
Amongst the lesbian community at large, amongst the Lesbian Mom Network, or what is
I think we thought of ourselves as lesbian separatists. Like I was working in a teen health center at that time, which was run by all these, radical women.
Mhm.
And there were some queers there as well. So working in women's health, living in a communal family, interacting mostly with lesbian women. So when the biological mother of Kelsey removed her from our family and used her privilege as the biological mother to keep us from seeing that child and asserted that privilege, that was such a horrific outcome for the lesbians that we knew.
Yes, I see. And Kelsey being a child of a lesbian mother
Yeah.
who was a part of your communal household.
Right.
I see. Okay.
And she asserted her rights to be the sole mother of that child, despite the fact that she was conceived in a couple. But, it was a very, very dangerous time. The non-biological mother always took this risk.
Yes.
Was the biological mother going to remove her child from her? And that's exactly what happened to us.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the biggest heartbreak in my life for at least, I can't believe I could even choke up about it now.
It's okay.
Yeah, so many years where, after her.
If you need it.
Thanks. But of course, I have a handkerchief because
You came prepared.
I'm a hippie.
Yeah.
So, that was like at that time, at that point, I was singing with Out Loud. And, the fact of having had our child, our
Yeah.
communal child taken away, nobody wanted to associate with us. Nobody wanted to confront the fact that that could happen. And it did happen to us. So it was pretty awful.
As I understand it, your role in the communal living space was
I was
caretaker.
the at-home mom. Yeah,
Yep.
I was the at-home mom. I did the daytime childcare because, my two co-moms, one was in grad school and one was an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So the biological mom, Celeste, was an engineer. And she worked 70 hours per week.
Oh my gosh.
And the grad school mom, Patty, was also worked many, many hours per week. And so I had been doing childcare and working at the Corner Health Center. So the childcare that I was doing was for a lawyer in town who then helped us to write a comprehensive power of attorney
Ooh.
after that loss. It may have even been motivated by our situation that she then worked very hard to create a robust power of attorney for lesbian couples to provide the rights that we did not have through marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we benefited from that. Beth and I had this power of attorney that defined medical rights and all kinds of other rights of seeing the child and everything so that we could avoid what happened with Kelsey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I first met you talking on the phone,
Yeah.
I understand that years later, you saw Kelsey again.
Yes, I did, actually. She lives in my neighborhood now, which is every now and then she'll pop up on the Facebook page, and I always have such intense feelings because I did not see her after she was about 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We saw her a couple of times, mostly accidentally. Like Celeste would not let us see Kelsey at all.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't visit. We couldn't send a card. We couldn't anything. And who knew what story she was telling Kelsey
Sure.
about who we were?
Yes.
I was with her every day. I potty trained her.
Mhm.
I cut her hair. I sewed clothing for her. We were very careful about equitable sharing of parenting time. So, I had my share of evenings with her, putting her to bed. Sean and Kelsey shared a bedroom. They were raised as siblings. So it was very, very hard to lose her like that. And one time when she was about 7 or 8 years old, we ran into her at a county fair.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she and Sean hugged and they rode a few rides together. And then that was the last time we saw her for many, many years. Yeah. So it was so intense when I ran into her again, but I didn't have an opportunity to speak to her directly. I was working then at the food co-op, and Kelsey, as an adult, like I stalked her on Facebook
Yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah.
just to like see what was happening in her life. And I also knew where they lived in Ann Arbor, and I would occasionally drive by her house, or I would drive by the house where we all lived together. I'm surprised how emotional I feel about this at this late date. But so I was working at the food co-op doing marketing and the beekeeping project.
Mhm.
And I was in my office, and she came in to meet with the director.
Oh my gosh.
And I heard her introduce herself, and I was like, oh my God, I'm 10 feet away from her. And then a second time I ran into her at a Growing Hope. What do you call it when you're planning for the future? It was,
Like a
one of
kickoff
those-
meeting, like
yeah. And she was there representing the Fair Food Network in Ann Arbor. Kelsey was there. My heart was pounding,
Yes.
and I was breaking out into a sweat, and I was like, oh my God, can I even sit through this meeting? I might just have to leave right
Yes.
now, so.
And it is no coincidence
Yeah.
that you guys were working in the same fields.
Yeah.
The Food Network
maybe,
system and
yeah.
the...
we certainly did, I certainly did take her with me to do gardening stuff and garden together in the yard. And that was maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that love of nature was part of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Part of her motivation. I think what she does now is she cares for animals on farms that are then used therapeutically with kids, maybe.
Oh my
Something
gosh.
like that, yeah. But yeah, she moved back to our neighborhood.
Yes.
She lives, 5 blocks from me. I can and do drive by her house all the time and just sort of like look and see, can I see her? But she doesn't really know who I am, I'm sure.
Yes.
Or I'm not sure. I don't know. Who knows?
I also understand it that Sean, your daughter,
Yeah.
also lives across the street from you.
Yeah, she lives very nearby. She lives like 2 blocks away.
That's incredible.
And so she has friended Kelsey on Facebook, but they haven't had, like a meeting as adults that I know of. I don't think so. But yeah, it's weird stuff. Weird lesbian heartbreak. Yeah.
I am struck by interviewing Beth yesterday
Yeah.
and speaking with you today, how I think being, I don't know if this is the right word, but your identities as caretakers and protectors.
Yeah. Very big.
Yeah, very big, and how that's a driving force in how y'all live your life and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. My majority political thrust is water protection, working to shut down Line 5,
Ooh.
which we just had terrible news that, we have to go back to the Sixth Circuit Court, which already ruled in favor of Line 5 being a state issue to decide. But I came to the water protection and environmental justice through my love of nature, and through
yes, of
my,
course.
and also my love of Native culture, so that the leadership of a lot of environmental justice efforts in Michigan are led by Native people. And there's 12 federally recognized tribes in Michigan. And these are called the Cora tribes, and C-O-R-A. I can't remember what that acronym means either. But the 12 Cora tribes are very much leading a lot of efforts for environmental justice in Michigan, both in water affordability in Detroit and Flint and Saginaw, places like that. Benton
I'm from
Harbor.
Saginaw.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Saginaw is a native word.
Yep.
It's from
grew
the
up playing on
Sauk
Ojibwe
tribe.
Island.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Ah, so cool. Yeah.
Do you define yourself as a political person?
Yeah, absolutely. An activist? Absolutely.
How did you become a political person, and why did you become a political person?
Well, from earliest times, my mother was a very traditional wife in some ways. In other ways, she was very authoritarian and she was definitely the dominant spouse, right? So I had her example of being very comfortable in many ways with her own authority and
Ah,
being the boss,
a Blue
right?
Jay.
A Blue Jay, exactly. At the same time, she had a lot of struggles with it. And so she tried very hard. My dad was a extroverted band leader, salesman. He knew a million people, very beloved in the community,
Charm.
charmer, absolutely. And the favorite uncle of everyone in our family is such a sweet guy. And so my mother sort of got the short end of that stick where she had to enforce discipline and she had to be the rule setter. And he would be like, yeah, you do that hard stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so early on, she would have me, one of my chores was cleaning my brother's rooms and
Oy.
making their beds. And I was, from earliest times, that seemed unjust to me. Why
Yeah.
do I have to clean their rooms? Why don't they clean their rooms? So I was a very early feminist. And also, I have very young memories of seeing in Mississippi the kinds of repression against people of color, with German shepherds and fire hoses
Ooh.
and, Bloody Sunday. I saw those things as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old on the television, and I just knew that was not right from the tiniest times. I was just like, that is not okay.
Yeah.
And so in college, when I began studying other cultures, and of course, I studied African American culture, but I ended up being most interested in Native culture, modern Native culture. So being in Michigan, that was a great place to be because there was a class on Native Ojibwe language that was taught by a team of professor and a Native Ojibwe man from Ontario.
Too cool.
Yeah. And so I studied that and it was very amazing. And I took part in stuff having to do with Native justice then. And then I got involved with the RAP program.
Okay, tell me about that. What?
That was in the days when the Spectrum Center was then called El Gimpo. We called it the Lesbian, Gay, Male Programs Office. There's one I can still do.
El Gimpo.
El Gimpo, yes. And so I went there when I was coming out for some counseling. Lovely butch woman was in charge. That was Billy Edwards, who later became a very close friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So Billy was running these many programs to the university, and one of which was the RAP program, where you went into classrooms and students could ask you any question about being queer.
Holy cannoli.
Yeah, so we went to a million classrooms, and I would intentionally wear a dress just to fuck with their heads.
I was going to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I am a femme-presenting person anyway. I've always had long hair, luxurious hair. And,
Yes, the locks.
yeah, I have always felt in harmony with my assigned gender identity. And I always felt that queerness should be a choice and can be a choice. As we used to say in early feminism is the theory and lesbianism is the practice. So we
put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we talked about political lesbians at that time, and I considered myself a political lesbian before I was willing to admit that I had feelings too. But I believed that I was choosing lesbianism because I was rocking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it came from a lot of different places, from the RAP program, from Native justice, from environmental justice, from Afro-American justice. I did one of those weekend programs where you confronted your racism.
Okay.
It was in the 91 maybe. So it was after the RAP program.
Now, the RAP program, when you went into these classrooms, What did these kids ask you, or
Uh,
was it?
they
What was that like?
Oh, it was fun and many predictable questions.
Yes.
You would get the same questions over and over again. Like, you can't raise children because then your children are going to be queer. And I'm like, no, I was raised by straight people and I
Yeah.
turned out queer. So, that's not reliable.
Using that logic.
Yes,
Yeah.
using that logic, exactly. Or they would say things like, you're damaging your child by being a lesbian, an out lesbian. Or they would say, don't you have to wear flannel? Or, like funny, silly little,
Sure.
really innocent in many ways. There was, I wouldn't say there was a lot of questions about sex.
Yeah.
There weren't really.
These were middle school classrooms or high school classrooms?
College classrooms.
College classrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. My mind
Yeah.
is, now I'm making connections.
Oh, yeah. No. We never went into an elementary. No.
No.
We wouldn't expose them to queers.
Oh,
God
God
forbid.
forbid.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember somebody who I had previously interviewed or someone who I had met maybe was telling me about this exact thing.
Yeah. So we went into, usually you went, it wasn't usually just me solo. Usually it was me and a couple others.
At
And
Michigan
we tried
State?
no, U of M, University of Michigan, through what was then El Gimpo, but now Spectrum Center. I don't think they do the rap program anymore. I mean, rap at that time in the 80s was already kind of a dumb historical term that was no longer in use. Let's rap about this.
Okay.
Yes.
Aha.
So, but that's what we called it. It may have had another name, but we called it the rap program. And so we went in to rap about queerness, and we tried to have people of various identities on the panel.
Yep.
We, usually it was 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, but, usually we tried to have, like, if I was going, then a gay man, or, a bisexual was new and exciting. We would have a bisexual. Or, the bisexual questions were also incredibly predictable and silly.
Yeah.
And it was pre the gender, revolution. So there wasn't a lot of talk about gender identification. There was talk about it in the sense of butch femme. Because when I would present, let me see, did I ever do raps with Beth? We met in 88. I was still doing the rap program for several years after I met her. But I don't think we ever did a rap together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Beth would tear that room up.
Yeah, she would.
Oh, my God.
She's such a personality. Yeah. And all the straight girls all wish that they were gay when they meet Beth. Yeah.
So
she had a very lively dating life, before me.
She was telling me, I was like, how many planners did you have? How did you keep all of this in line?
And so it was hilarious. This still happens. I just want you to know, like, when we meet people that she was friendly with before our relationship began, they were always like, you're still together? Like, it was this shock. Yes, I am that good.
Yeah. I wrangled the I wrangled
her
Mustang.
to the ground, to the mat. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so that was fun.
No, another huge part of your life has been music and singing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's totally another aspect of my spirituality that is very key to my life. Like, in order to get through anything, singing is part of it. So when I was a young mother, I discovered Women with Wings, which Kay Gardner, a lesbian composer on the East Coast, formed a lesbian chorus called Women with Wings. And they wrote all of their songs. Everyone in the group wrote their songs.
Wow.
And they had this ethic. Kay believed that all people can sing, and that if you've been told as a woman that you cannot sing, you can't carry a tune, blah, blah, that's incorrect, that if you come and sing with us, if you stand next to a strong singer, you will learn to match pitch and so forth. So The three founders of Women with Wings West, our group here in Ypsi, were Jean Mackey, Aaron Smith Douglas, and myself. And each of us had worked with Kay Gardner at different music festivals. And we came back, and at a certain point, we were just like, we have to do this here.
Yeah.
We have to start Women with Wings here. And so we did start it. First, we thought we were going to meet every week like the State of Maine group does. But we couldn't sustain that. And we also couldn't afford to rent a place, which is what we started out doing, renting the UU church. So we moved it into Aaron Smith Douglas's house. And Jean helped lead this group, one of three leaders, including me, for about 5 years. And then she moved on. And so it was me and Aaron running this for the next 20 years. And
20 years.
Yeah, it's still going.
Incredible.
But Aaron and I don't lead anymore. We decided to we went through a lot of changes with all the different styles of Women with Wings. For a long time, all these young mothers brought their children each and every time. And one of the original singers, her child came in the womb, came as a child, continues to come right up until now. That's Maya Baum. She's like the original Women with Wingers child. Yeah. We used to say women were welcome from age 8 to 88. But of course, if you were older than that, you could come too. And the point of the group was to, first of all, give everyone their voice. Many women in the group had been told, don't sing in the choir. You mouth the words, or sing very quietly because you can't hold the tune. And we were like, no, we're all going to sing, and we're going to sing loud. And we tended to collect more songs than we wrote, but I've written many songs for the group. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, and these songs are about process. They're about, having in our mouths and in our lungs words that we support and can believe in. These are words that are feeding our soul and helping us to survive. And so
badass.
Oh, it was so fun. Yeah. And so many, many times, like, we would sing seasonal tunes also, very much environmental, earth-based seasonal tunes, but also many, many tunes about things like surviving death or worship, thanking the earth for all the many gifts that we receive. And so we led that for 20 plus years. And then we decided, she and I were tired, and we decided we wanted to pass on the leadership. And now the group is very much smaller, and they moved to Ann Arbor because that has worked better for them. And I found that a little disappointing. I really was committed to it being in Ypsi. But I still go sometimes. For the first couple of years, well, first of all, we retired in 2020. So first of all, there was the pandemic, and so nobody could sing.
Yep.
But then once they started meeting again, a couple of the people who'd been in it for many, many years took up the leadership and moved it to Ann Arbor. And so I still go occasionally, but I wanted to make sure that they could lead it the way they wanted to. And if I was present, I think that would have, they would have, and they do and did, would often defer to me and say, you lead something, And I think it's really important for people to choose what it is they're there to sing. It doesn't have to be all me picking what we're going to sing next, And
it's collaborative.
Yeah, it's collaborative. And we had other people in the group. For a long time, Peggy Bennett was in our group, and she wrote a number of really great songs that were topical to what was going on in our world, in our lives.
What an amazing creative outlet.
Yeah, it was so great.
And if somebody's listening to this and they've never had the opportunity to sing with other people like that.
It's the last Thursday of every month, and they can contact me, or the person who's leading right now is Katie Kramp, Kramp, and you can find her on Facebook, and you could find out when the next Women with Wings is. But then what we're doing now, so Erin Smith Douglas and I and Patty Betker, who is another founder person of Women with Wings, we meet the three of us and sing a couple of times a month, every month, and we call it Mini Wings. So we have our Mini Wings gathering. So I still continue to sing in that style of, what I used to call process choir, so we're processing life and our feelings and events through music.
When you say process, you mean the product, if you will, is not of importance.
Absolutely.
But it is the act
It
of
is
singing.
absolutely the act of expression.
I see.
Right. That is the important part.
And
so everybody can do that. And
yes,
every child, every person grew up under a beating heart. We can all have rhythm. We can all sing. We can all match pitch. And we can all, everybody sings in the shower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a learned skill is what you're telling me.
Yes, absolutely a learned skill. And I really hate the people who say, well, I don't have any talent. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate them, but I hate the ethic in our culture or the value in our culture that says only people with quote unquote talent.
They were given a gift.
Yeah. And therefore they're the only ones who should sing. And I'm like, no, we all sing because we all have something to express.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the emotional experience of making noise and singing is so profound.
Yeah. And
you're about to make me cry again.
A loud person. So I really believe that we, it's definitely a life issue for me, feeling heard.
Yes. You've been retired for, you said
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Congratulations. When you look into the future, what do you see for yourself?
The future.
Yeah. Does the future scare you or what? What's your relationship like with the future?
Well, I am a Trekkie, so of course I do see a future possibly in space, although I don't want to go there. Yeah. I'm too earthbound.
Yeah.
And nature-based. I don't even want to travel, which is a struggle we're going through right now, is that I am so rooted and in love with Southeast Michigan and our home that we've made for 30 years and all my gardens and all of that, leaving and going elsewhere. I mean, I always have a great time. It always is wonderful. But getting me out the door is really, really hard because I want to be here. I love this place. And so in the future, I know Beth wants to do more traveling, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do that. Of course, I have a note on my phone where I'm trying to work it out, like how many times per year can I travel without going crazy?
Yeah.
Because, rootedness also implies that when you're elsewhere, I feel untethered. I feel like I'm just sort of floating around in space. I don't know what I'm attached to when I'm away from my stuff and my gardens and my place and my river and all that,
And your books and your...
Yeah, and my books and my quilts and all that stuff, I mean, a lot of it is stuff, but it has spiritual meaning for me. So being in another place. So, I mean, some of the travel that I want to do is I want to go to Ireland where my ancestors came from. So I'm interested in that. And I want to go to Amsterdam and visit the Anne Frank house because when I was there with Bryn, my ex-husband, he was like, nah, I don't feel like doing that. And having been raised a girl, I was like, oh, okay. I guess we won't do that then.
Let's do the boring thing I'm not interested in at all.
Let's go watch soccer, oh God, which was football. I know to call it football. So, so I want to do that. So we're toying around with the idea of like a river cruise that ends in Amsterdam, maybe.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So travel is a thing that I know Beth wants. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do it. That's a thing.
The next question I want to ask you leads me into something that I call the big gay questionnaire.
Big gay questionnaire.
This is something I've asked everyone that I've spoke to for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And these are meant to be kind of like a quick fire rapid, but of course it never happens that way. And that's absolutely fine.
Okay, because I'm a talker.
Yeah.
So.
One of the questions that I've asked everybody who I've met is, what gives you hope?
Yeah, that's the quick question, Jacob. I mean, oh, God, I'm reading a book right now called Hope in the Dark. Rebecca Solnit.
Yeah.
On the topic of how do you stay hopeful. And also Brian Stevenson is a very important thought leader in my life. And his 4 things for what you got to do. You got to get proximate to oppressed communities. You have to change the narrative about what's happening. You have to cultivate an ethic of hope. You have to continue to hope. And that's the one that I struggle with.
Yep.
Because I have an Irish background, and we are dark.
Yeah.
The Irish, So we are dark, and it's hard to feel hopeful. So I would have to go back to nature.
Yeah.
I have to, when I am growing, when I have my hands in the dirt, when I am caring for an organic garden where I'm in a relationship with all of those critters and bugs and entities in the soil and having a positive relationship with my relatives, all my relatives, meaning the animals and the birds and all of that. That's the thing that gives me hope, is being in right relationship with nature.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Ooh. Well, I'd have to say Margaret Hamilton. Yes. The Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, in 8th grade, man. Okay, how old was I in 8th grade? I had watched The Wizard of Oz every year since birth. That's how they did it on network TV. And she was just so powerful, and she had the broom, and she was, she could fly. And she was green.
And she was green.
Yeah.
What would you bring to a potluck dinner?
We always bring deviled eggs.
Oh.
Because you never go home with any deviled eggs.
Yes.
They always go. So
I'm the designated deviled egg maker in
there
my family.
There you go.
So.
And I have this really pretty deviled egg plate.
I need one.
Get one.
This past holiday season, I'm like, I'm bringing this in a fucking Tupperware.
Yes. We have to bring the very beautiful, glass plate with the little holes for the.
What part of aging has brought you the most joy?
Oh, definitely the grandparenting.
Ooh.
Grandparenting is the greatest, man. When you're a mother, you have to make all these hard decisions, like you have to decide, where is she going to go to school? How am I going to dress her? How much are we going to talk about sex? All of that stuff. So hard to make those decisions. But with grandparenting, it's all fun.
Yes.
It's all like, you get all the good parts of parenting and none of the hard ones, We talk about our house as the house of yes.
Ooh.
Grandkids come over and they're like, can we do yes, we can do that. We're going to do it and we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
The first 2 years of Idris's life, I had him one day solo all day while Sean worked and one day with Beth. So twice a week, we had him all day.
Mm-hmm.
I would just sit on the floor. We're just going to sit on the floor today and play.
Yeah.
It was great. And Ara herself is also my 2 grandchildren look so much like their mother.
Wow.
It's freaky.
Yeah.
I remember when Idris was around 3 or 4 and he was running around with a sleeveless shirt on and he was climbing something. And I was idly looking for the scar on the shoulder, And I'm like, no, this is not my child. She looks so much like her.
Whoa.
And Ara is the same. Ara looks so much like Sean in so many different attitudes and expressions and facial expressions. And
to be able to see that must feel very rewarding.
it is very cool and something that it took me many years to realize that Sean actually does. I thought Sean just looked exactly like her dad.
Mm-hmm.
But then a few years ago, like 15 years ago, I saw pictures of my grandmother when she was 25 years old. And she looks so much like Sean. So that was very exciting to feel that she looks like somebody in my lineage.
Yes.
And so we just, it's so beautiful. I love spending time with them kids. And it's great.
What part of aging has bothered you the most?
Invisibility.
Talk to me.
Older women, I don't know if this is as true for men. But once like the bodacious attributes start hanging and you're no longer fuckable, you just disappear. You can, and this is also a superpower. So you can like walk out somewhere in your slippers or to the curb or whatever in your night dress and everything. And you don't have to worry because you're invisible and no one's going to, comment. Or like times when I've spilled an entire cup of coffee, in my lap. And then, but I could walk right through the dealership.
Go grocery shopping.
Yeah. No one sees it. No one sees me. And I don't like feeling unseen.
Yep. You're a Blue Jay.
I'm a Blue Jay and I want attention.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And so, yes, that has been very difficult. And I do not like it one bit.
My mom was telling me she was staying at a hotel and she lost her key. And the person at the desk, she said, "Oh, I lost my key." And the person goes, "I really shouldn't give you a key. I don't have your ID.
Right.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But I can give you a key, right?" And my mom in her head goes, "I could be a murderer. I could be this. I could be that." And they actually gave her a key to a room that wasn't hers. So she walked into these people's rooms and she said, "Am I that invisible?
Yeah.
Or am I
Right.
the way that I'm perceived as?" I don't know what I'm trying to say with that story, but it really brought something.
I mean, I'm sure that she checked in with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this person presumably had seen her, but didn't. And that's I must say that when I am meeting people or I am making myself seen.
Hello.
Yeah, in a variety of ways, like through what I say, through how I act, through what I wear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't wear like traditional old lady clothes.
Sure.
So, I demand to be seen and attended to and listened to. And that's something that we don't do much for older women in our culture.
That pisses me off. Like, how stupid.
Me too.
Okay, here's a good one. What's your best Halloween costume ever?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I've had many good Halloween costumes, but I made a lot of good ones for Sean too. And, incidentally, my mother won every Halloween parade. She's so competitive also.
Yeah.
I learned to compete. And so she was so clever. And many of the costumes that we dressed up in for the Halloween parade won. And I had a pet duck, for example. Her name was Duckle. And Duckle featured in a tableau that we made of the goose that laid the golden egg. So Duckle played the goose and a leg's egg played the golden egg.
Yeah.
And, each of us children were like the farmer, the farmer's wife. And I think that was my fave just because Duckle got to participate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Duckle.
Yes. Duckle was an amazing pet. Yes.
Okay. Last one here. I'll hit you with, what's the one piece of advice you would give younger members of the LGBTQ community?
have some sex, for God's sake.
Oh my God.
For God's sake, take a chance, have sex.
Yeah. I'm so bad at this part. I don't know how to thank you enough for coming here and sharing so much of yourself and for just letting me ask you these questions.
Yeah, it's fun.
It has been such a pleasure.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to The Gayest Generation. Episodes can be found at aadl.org, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.